Hi everyone, Bowie and Katie here to do today's demonstration. Today's activity is the cup game. It's a pretty simple game, not too many items required for it, and it doesn't really take a lot of time in order for the dogs to kind of get into it, especially if they're food motivated. This is actually one of Bowie's favorites. He's been all over me for about 15 minutes as we were gathering supplies. He knew that we were going to do what I call trading for treats, and he loves it, don't you? That's your favorite. So today's activity is really kind of geared towards a lot of the feeding nutrition kind of items. It also taps into sensory, mostly because of the fact that it is tapping into their sense of olfactory senses and getting them to kind of smell where the food is, and kind of a little bit of tactile because they have to actually, if you use different kinds of cups and different weights of cups, they have to figure out how to actually flip the cup in order to get the goods, essentially. The fun thing about this activity is you can kind of change it up a little bit. So you can make it really simple and just simply set the food down, show the dog that it's there, cover it with a cup, and then they have to figure out how to get that one cup. Once they're able to knock that cup over, you can slowly start adding in more and more cups. You can do different shapes, different sizes, again, different weights, just to make it a little bit more challenging. A lot of times when I do this, I also kind of spread the cups out, and some I put food in and some I don't. So he has to figure out kind of which ones have the food in it. Today I'm going to go stick with a very simple one. So basically what we're using is just a variety of different, what I refer to as cups or containers. I actually just reuse stuff. So again, I'm using like an ice cream container. I have some little plastic, just, storage containers. And then I'm also using the bottom of what used to be actually had mushrooms in it. And so I like to just reuse the things that are around my place. If you have like cottage cheese, or if you have yogurt, you can reuse those. So again, this is something that doesn't really cost a lot. You just use the different things in your house. The other item that you have to have is going to be some kind of food item. I actually usually use high reward when I'm doing these kind of activities with Bowie, just because it makes it more interesting for him. Sometimes I'll use regular dog food, but So I am actually going to encourage that as you're doing this, it's really great to kind of use some training techniques at the same time. So it's not only enrichment, but it's training enrichment as well. So in order for me to set up, I have to make sure that Bowie is in a place where he's not going to get in it as I'm putting them down. So you can either do this by telling the dog to go in the crate and actually crating them. If they have a really good sit and stay, you can also do that as well. So we're going to get started. I'm going to adjust this camera just a little bit so that you can kind of see where I'm going to be putting them. All right. Okay, Bobo. Can you kennel up? Kennel up. Stay. So while he's in there, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put out the treats with a little food underneath them. So you can do as much or as little treats as you want underneath. I would say when you're first starting out, make them big rewards just so that they feel like it's worth their time to kind of knock over these cups. You can also, to make it easier, have them like really close together so that it's not as hard for them to try to figure out what they need to be doing. As they get better, you can kind of spread them out a little bit more. Sometimes I'll actually spread them out across my entire apartment, but obviously I'm not going to do that today. So again, we're still making them wait for the treats. So again, we've got some training going on at the same time. And then let's put this on all the way over here. So some of these containers are a little bit more heavy. Other ones, like these little containers right here, those are actually really light, so it shouldn't take very much for him to flip them over. Once you're ready, you just let the dog know that they can engage in the activity. Okay, come on. Find him. Good, yes. And as you're doing this activity, as they're knocking them over to extend the time, you can also go back to those same containers and basically like put food back in them as well, just so that the game kind of continues on. I would recommend that if you are using kind of containers, just like always, make sure to supervise them, because there are times, like if it's a really good treat, Bowie actually will knock it over and sometimes grab it and take it somewhere. He doesn't really destroy it, but just know that you might not want to use your best Tupperware. And it's kind of funny to watch them when you know that they've got all the trinkets under it and just keep using it. And today I'm using different small containers that I've never used with Bowie, so that it's a little bit more of a challenge for him today. And obviously, as you're doing this, if you are noticing that your dog is getting a little bit frustrated and kind of giving up, it may just be that you need to try a different container, or you just need to take it a step back and do a kind of a more simple type of activity. So again, just putting the food down and having them watch you put the cup over top of it so that they know that there's food under there. But it's also okay if they're struggling, like Bowie right now is kind of struggling with one of them, to kind of just let them take their time on it, just because at this point he's still engaged in the activity. It's more when you notice them starting to kind of disconnect from the activity is when you may want to intervene. Just over here. I'm just going to pull it back so it doesn't go under my couch. Oh, good boy. So again, Bowie actually picked it up with his mouth, so that's one reason why I would say don't use really great Tupperware. But this is not Tupperware that I really care about, so. I do still have some more treats, so I will put a little bit more in here. And now that I know that he can actually do the harder one, I probably will put higher value rewards and more under the more challenging ones, so that he has more incentive to want to actually get to those particular ones. Will really like this activity. Other dogs will find it, especially if they're not very food motivated at all, or if it is too difficult for them, you'll notice that it's just not an activity that they want to do, and that's okay. Enrichment really is about figuring out what activities your dog thrives in, which ones they really enjoy, and doing more of those, getting creative and figuring out how can I tap into that particular sense or that particular component that they're going to be excited to do the activity. So he just got his very last one. I'm out of dog treats. So that is kind of the end of this particular tutorial. Just keep in mind that we're going to continue to do more of these through the course of this week, as well as over the 8 weeks. We'll be doing a segment throughout the 8 weeks. So if there are things that you find that you really want to know more types of activities or more variants, let us know. If there is something that you have that is like you're like, hey, I have this, how can I use this for enrichment? Feel free to post that as well, and we'll try to see if we can kind of incorporate that as well. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this mini cup game, and just get creative with what you have in your house, and let's see what your dogs do with it.
Another soap opera staple, the long dramatic pauses.
What's in there? Good job. Just a minute, Molly. Good job, Marshy. There's 2 more. Yeah. Gotta push it over. Oh.